Imagine this for a moment: a room full of conversations, laughter floating in the air, confidence walking before words do. Eyes turn, not because someone is the loudest, not because someone is the youngest, but because someone carries a calm certainty that cannot be faked. That pull, that quiet gravity, is where desire often begins. And this is where many people get confused. They assume attraction is about looks, age, or surface level excitement. But beneath all of that, desire follows something far deeper, something rooted in psychology, emotional safety, and lived wisdom. When younger adult women feel drawn toward men with experience, it is not about rebellion and it is not about novelty for the sake of novelty. It is about nervous systems recognizing stability. It is about the body and mind sensing someone who knows himself, someone who has been tested by life and did not collapse under it. Experience leaves marks, but not all marks are scars. Some marks are depth, patience, and the ability to stay present when emotions rise. A man with experience has usually learned one critical lesson that many people take years to understand. Attraction grows in safety, not chaos. He has made mistakes, faced consequences, lost things, rebuilt himself, and in that process, learned emotional regulation. Younger women, especially those who are emotionally aware, are not seeking drama. They are seeking grounding. They are drawn to someone whose reactions are not impulsive, whose presence feels steady rather than unpredictable. There is something profoundly attractive about a man who does not rush to prove himself. He does not chase validation because life has already humbled and shaped him. He listens without immediately correcting. He responds rather than reacts. This creates a psychological contrast. In a world where attention is loud and shallow, experience shows up as silence with substance, and that silence speaks safety. Desire is not activated by perfection. It is activated by competence, emotional competence, relational competence. A man who has experienced relationships understands that connection is not about winning arguments, controlling outcomes, or impressing others. It is about understanding emotional rhythms. He knows when to speak and when to let silence do the work. That attunement is rare, and rarity creates value. Younger adult women are often navigating a world full of pressure to perform, to choose correctly, to not waste time. An experienced man does not add to that pressure. He subtracts from it. His presence says, "You don't have to rush here." That slowing down of the nervous system is deeply attractive. Desire does not flourish in anxiety, it flourishes in ease. Another layer is emotional containment. Experience teaches a man that emotions are not problems to fix, but experiences to hold. When a woman expresses vulnerability and it is met with calm understanding instead of defensiveness or withdrawal, trust begins to grow. Trust is the foundation of desire. Without trust, attraction stays superficial. With trust, it deepens. There is also the element of direction, not control, not dominance, but clarity. A man with experience often knows what he wants and what he does not. That clarity reduces confusion. Many younger women are not looking for someone to lead their life, but they are deeply attracted to someone who leads himself. Self-leadership signals maturity. It says, "I can stand on my own feet, and if you walk beside me, it is a choice, not a dependency." Experience also refines communication. Instead of emotional games, there is directness. Instead of mixed signals, there is consistency. Consistency is one of the most underrated attraction triggers. The mind relaxes when behavior aligns with words. Desire grows when someone feels emotionally predictable in a healthy way. Then there is perspective. An experienced man has seen cycles. infatuation, conflict, repair, loss, growth. Because of this, he does not panic at intensity and he does not cling to fantasy. He understands that relationships are built, not found fully formed. This grounded realism creates emotional safety for a younger partner who may still be learning to separate fantasy from sustainable connection. Another important point is presence. Experience often teaches a man how to be fully present, not distracted by proving, performing, or competing. Presence is magnetic. When someone is truly with you, not half on a phone and half in their ego, the body notices. Desire responds to being seen, heard, and understood. It is also important to understand that this attraction is not about age alone. It is about embodied wisdom. A younger man with emotional depth and self-awareness can be just as attractive as an older one. What matters is not the number of years lived, but the number of lessons integrated. Experience without reflection does not create attraction. Growth does. Younger adult women who crave experienced men are often craving emotional mentorship, not in a hierarchical sense, but in a relational one. They want someone who can hold space during uncertainty, who does not shame emotional expression, who has learned patience through loss and resilience through failure. This is not weakness, it is emotional intelligence. There is also a biological layer. Calm confidence signals protection and reliability. The nervous system reads steadiness as safety. Safety allows desire to open instead of guarding itself. This is why chaotic intensity may feel exciting at first, but exhausting over time, while grounded presence feels quietly addictive. An experienced man is also less threatened by independence. He has learned that love does not mean possession. He respects autonomy because he has had his own tested. That respect creates attraction because it removes the fear of being controlled or diminished. Another subtle but powerful factor is emotional pacing. Experience teaches timing, knowing when to move closer and when to give space, knowing that desire grows when there is room to breathe. Younger women often feel suffocated by emotional urgency. Experience replaces urgency with patience, and patience is seductive. What is often misunderstood is that this dynamic is not about imbalance, it is about complementarity. Younger energy brings curiosity, openness, and vitality. Experience brings grounding, perspective, and emotional steadiness. When these meet in a healthy way, desire is not forced, it unfolds. It is also worth noting that experienced men are often more comfortable with emotional depth. They do not avoid difficult conversations because they know avoidance costs more in the long run. This willingness to engage honestly builds intimacy, and intimacy fuels desire far more than surface-level charm ever could. At its core, this attraction is not about seeking someone older. It is about seeking someone safer, steadier, and more self-aware. Someone who has walked through fire and learned not to burn others with the heat. Someone whose confidence comes from knowing his limits as much as his strengths. Desire is intelligent. It is not random. It moves toward what feels nourishing, not just exciting. When younger adult women are drawn to men with experience, they are responding to emotional signals that say, "Here, you can exhale." And in that exhale, desire finds space to grow, deepen, and stay. That space to exhale is something many people underestimate. In modern connection, everyone is holding their breath, waiting to be chosen, waiting to be validated, waiting to be enough. An experienced man often isn't holding his breath anymore. He has already faced rejection, loss, disappointment, and uncertainty. Because of that, he doesn't transmit anxiety into the connection, and anxiety is contagious. Calm is contagious too. Younger women don't always consciously register this, but their nervous system does. Experience also teaches emotional boundaries, not walls, boundaries, knowing where responsibility ends and where choice begins. This is deeply attractive because it removes emotional chaos. When someone knows how to say no without cruelty, how to say yes without self betrayal, and how to stay consistent without overpromising, it creates trust. Desire cannot survive in confusion, it thrives in clarity. There is also a quiet humility that often comes with real experience, not arrogance disguised as confidence, but grounded self respect. A man who has been humbled by life does not need to dominate conversations or diminish others to feel powerful. He is secure enough to let someone else shine. That generosity of presence is rare, and rarity amplifies attraction. Younger adult women are often in a phase of identity expansion, discovering who they are, what they want, what they will and will not tolerate. An experienced man does not rush that process or feel threatened by it. He understands growth takes time because he has lived it. That patience communicates respect, and respect deepens desire far beyond physical attraction. Another important layer is emotional memory. Experience teaches pattern recognition. An experienced man can sense emotional shifts early, not to control them, but to respond wisely. He knows when distance is a need, not a rejection. He knows when silence is processing, not punishment. This emotional literacy prevents unnecessary conflict and builds emotional intimacy. There is something deeply reassuring about being with someone who doesn't personalize everything. When emotions arise, he doesn't interpret them as attacks. He has learned that feelings move like weather, temporary, informative, and human. That emotional maturity allows a younger partner to express herself without fear of escalation or withdrawal. Desire also feeds on admiration, and admiration grows when competence is visible. Life competence, handling stress, finances, responsibilities, relationships, setbacks. Experience sharpens this competence. It's not flashy, but it's reliable. And reliability creates attraction that lasts beyond novelty. Another often unspoken factor is narrative depth. An experienced man carries stories not just of success, but of failure, reinvention, and resilience. These stories communicate humanity. They signal that he has lived, learned, and integrated. That depth creates emotional resonance, and resonance fuels desire more than surface level chemistry ever could. Younger women are not drawn to experience because they want someone to rescue them. They are drawn because they want someone who won't drown when emotions get deep, someone who can stay present when things are uncomfortable, someone who doesn't disappear when intimacy requires accountability. Experience also shifts how a man relates to power. He no longer confuses power with control. He understands power as self mastery, and self mastery is attractive because it feels safe. It says, I won't use my strength against you. That sense of safety allows desire to soften instead of armor itself. There is also an energetic difference. Youth often carries urgency: prove, achieve, impress, acquire. Experience carries discernment: choose, align, preserve, grow. That slower, intentional energy can feel deeply grounding to someone navigating a fast, overstimulated world. An experienced man is often less reactive to comparison. He doesn't measure himself constantly against others because he has already faced his insecurities. This emotional independence removes competition from the connection. Desire grows when someone feels chosen freely, not out of insecurity. Communication with experience becomes cleaner, less subtext, fewer games, direct expression without cruelty, listening without defensiveness. Younger women often crave this clarity because it removes the emotional labor of guessing. When the mind relaxes, attraction deepens. Another subtle factor is accountability. Experience teaches that actions have consequences. An experienced man is more likely to own his mistakes rather than deflect blame. Accountability builds trust. Trust builds intimacy. Intimacy sustains desire. There is also the capacity for emotional repair. Conflict is inevitable. Experience teaches that rupture doesn't mean rejection. It means an opportunity for understanding. An experienced man knows how to return after disagreement, not with ego, but with curiosity. That ability to repair is profoundly attractive because it signals emotional safety over time. Younger women are often navigating contradictory expectations. Be independent, but not intimidating. Be expressive, but not too emotional. An experienced man is less likely to impose these contradictions. He has learned that authenticity matters more than performance. That permission to be real creates emotional closeness. Desire also responds to grounded masculinity, not performative dominance, but calm strength. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself, the kind that shows up consistently, listens attentively, and stands firm without aggression. Experience refines masculinity into something steadier and more trustworthy. Another aspect is time perspective. An experienced man understands that everything doesn't need to happen immediately. He values process over pressure, that patience allows desire to unfold naturally instead of being rushed or forced. Younger adult women often sense when someone is emotionally unfinished, still chasing validation, still fighting old wounds unconsciously. Experience doesn't erase wounds, but it teaches how to tend to them responsibly. That self-awareness reduces emotional spillover into the relationship. There is also the element of mentorship energy, not superiority, but guidance through presence. Being around someone who has navigated complexity with grace can feel inspiring. Inspiration is attractive. It awakens curiosity rather than dependency. Experience also reshapes intimacy. It becomes less about performance and more about attunement, less about impressing, more about connection. That shift creates deeper emotional and physical resonance. At a deeper level, this attraction is about coherence. When words, actions, values, and emotional responses align, the nervous system relaxes. Desire flows where coherence exists. Experience increases the likelihood of that alignment because life has tested it. Younger women who crave experienced men are often responding to this coherence. They are sensing someone who has integrated his experiences rather than being ruled by them. Someone who can hold space for both strength and vulnerability without collapsing into either. And as this dynamic unfolds, attraction becomes less about age and more about presence, less about excitement and more about depth, less about intensity and more about sustainability. Desire begins to anchor itself not in fantasy, but in reality that feels safe enough to explore, deep enough to trust, and steady enough to stay open within. That steadiness changes how desire behaves. Instead of flaring up and burning out, it simmers. It becomes something that doesn't need constant stimulation to survive. And this is where many misunderstand attraction. They think desire needs chaos to stay alive. In reality, desire needs enough safety to stop defending itself. Experience provides that safety. An experienced man understands emotional pacing. He doesn't rush intimacy to secure reassurance, and he doesn't withhold it to gain power. He allows connection to build naturally. That neutrality around attachment is deeply attractive because it removes manipulation from the dynamic. Younger women often sense when closeness is being used as leverage, and it shuts desire down. Experience replaces leverage with trust. There is also a difference in how experienced men handle uncertainty. They don't demand guarantees. They know life rarely offers them. This tolerance for ambiguity creates emotional spaciousness. When someone doesn't pressure you to define everything immediately, it allows curiosity and attraction to breathe. Another layer is emotional presence during stress. Life inevitably brings pressure, disappointment, and conflict. An experienced man has learned that stress doesn't require emotional withdrawal or aggression. He can stay engaged without becoming overwhelmed. That capacity to remain connected under pressure builds deep trust. Younger women often carry emotional responsibilities early, managing others' moods, anticipating reactions, smoothing conflicts. When they encounter someone who manages his own emotional world, it feels like relief. Relief is an underrated aphrodisiac. It tells the body, you don't have to work so hard here. Experience also brings discernment in affection. Compliments become more specific, less performative. Attention becomes more intentional, less scattered. This makes a woman feel seen rather than consumed. Desire grows when attention feels attuned, not possessive. Another important factor is the relationship to failure. An experienced man has failed and survived. Because of that, he doesn't shame vulnerability or imperfection. He understands that growth is nonlinear. That acceptance creates emotional safety, and emotional safety allows desire to remain open, even during difficult moments. There is also a shift in priorities. Experience often reorients a man toward what actually matters: integrity, consistency, emotional truth. He is less distracted by external validation. That internal alignment creates a sense of groundedness that others can feel. Attraction is often less about what someone says and more about how their presence feels. Younger adult women are highly sensitive to emotional incongruence. When words and actions don't match, desire erodes. Experience reduces this mismatch because lived consequences teach alignment. Someone who has lost trust knows its value. Someone who has lost connection understands the cost of carelessness. Another subtle but powerful element is how experienced men handle admiration. They don't exploit it and they don't become dependent on it. They receive appreciation without needing to inflate their ego. That emotional self-sufficiency keeps the dynamic balanced. Experience also shapes humor. It becomes less about impressing and more about connection. Humor that includes rather than excludes. Laughter that relaxes rather than performs. Shared laughter builds bonding, and bonding deepens attraction. There is also the ability to sit with silence. Inexperienced connection often fills silence with noise, words, jokes, distractions. Experience teaches that silence can be comfortable, even intimate. That comfort signals emotional security. Desire often lives in the spaces between words. Another dimension is respect for emotional cycles. An experienced man understands that closeness and distance both have their place. He doesn't interpret space as abandonment or closeness as entrapment. This balanced attachment creates room for desire to move organically rather than being forced into extremes. Younger women often feel pressured to manage others' insecurities. When that pressure is absent, they can relax into their own desire rather than constantly regulating someone else's. That freedom allows attraction to feel authentic rather than obligatory. Experience also brings patience with difference. Disagreement doesn't feel like a threat. Different opinions don't trigger defensiveness. That emotional flexibility makes conversations richer and connection deeper. Depth sustains desire far longer than agreement ever could. There is also an understanding of emotional investment. An experienced man doesn't overinvest prematurely, and he doesn't underinvest to appear detached. He invests proportionally. That emotional calibration creates trust. Another aspect is how experience reshapes ambition. It becomes less about proving worth and more about building meaning. That sense of purpose is attractive because it signals direction without rigidity. Direction creates a feeling of safety without control. Younger adult women are often drawn to this balance: strength without force, confidence without arrogance, clarity without pressure. These qualities are not taught easily. They are earned through experience, reflection, and integration. Experience also refines empathy, not sympathy, but true empathy, the ability to understand without absorbing. That emotional skill allows support without rescue. Desire grows when someone feels understood without being diminished.